Everyone.
No.
I gotta say, we are very surprised by the turnout. We didn't know if we'd have that many people. We're up to almost 200 people, so
Wow.
I'm very excited that y'all all decided to join us today.
Well, we're proud to be here.
We're gonna give it just a minute and let everyone get an opportunity to get in and get settled, and then we'll get started. As you come in, if you can go ahead and hit that mute button in the bottom left-hand corner, just so we don't have any background noise. And then at the end, we will have a time where we'll be able to open it up and allow you guys to ask questions of each other and of us. Yeah. Okay. Maybe. All right, gonna give it just another minute because we still have lots of people coming in. All right, we are going to go ahead and get started today. Thank you all for joining us in the middle of the day and coming to spend time with us. Well, it's the morning for some people. We're glad you all are taking the time to join us today as we kind of talk a little bit about some of our locations that are under 5,000 veterans grave. We last year we started a series where we did a webinar with just our larger locations that had over 5,000 veterans graves, because obviously they have some very specific needs. When you're placing 20, 30,000 wreaths, there's a lot more involved in getting that planned and organized. Not that takes away from anything that you guys do, and you still have lots of planning to do as well. So that went so well last year, and a couple people said, well, what about us? We would like the opportunity to do that too. So that's what we're doing today. And we're going to go through some things that are specific to your locations and wreath day planning and making sure that everything goes smoothly. And then at the end, we'll open it up so that you guys can ask questions from each other, because there are things that you guys are doing. Maybe you're running into an issue and you're like, hey, how do I do this? And there's people on this call who probably have already done something very similar, that they've kind of learned what works in their community, and they can kind of share their advice and feedback. So first, we're going to talk about planning your wreath laying ceremony. When it comes to planning your ceremony, regardless of the size of the cemetery, early planning is always going to be key to a successful event. The first thing you should do is create a task list that outlines all tasks and sets check-in dates so that you can track that progress. Next, you'll want to build your volunteer team. Whether you have 5 graves or 500, anytime you're planning an event, it's easier with help. So recruit a person to help, or a team of people based on your specific needs, to ensure that everything gets handled without you having burnout. You want to make sure that you're staying engaged with your sponsorship groups throughout the year. And again, that's whether if you have 1 group supporting you or 10 groups supporting you. You want to make sure they play a crucial role in making sure that Wreaths Across America Day is possible with their sponsorships. So attend local fundraising events if you can, to show them their support, and make sure you're communicating with them, what time to be there on Wreath Day, and assign them roles so that they can be involved and help support it as well. Make sure that you are taking advantage of the generous community that wants to support you. Reach out to local businesses for sponsorships or in-kind donations like supplies, equipment, or other items that you may need for Wreath Day. And don't forget to customize your Wreaths Across America page to make sure that you are sharing your wreath laying day plans and cleanup plans with the community so that they can help you support the mission. So some key tasks that you should make sure you are including on your task list are grave-specific requests. You'll need to organize requests, assign volunteers, and communicate with families to ensure proper wreath placement, whether that's letting them know where to pick up the wreath or letting them know that you placed it for them. Ceremony planning and supplies is another task. You will need to plan ceremony details, including speakers, sound, music, and ceremonial wreath placement. And remember, the ceremony itself, we're listing all these things that you can do and add to your ceremony, but it can be as extravagant or as simple as you are comfortable with. So don't think, hey, I saw this other location and they had, three speakers and, all these different event things, and I don't think that I can do that. As long as you are doing this with the best intent and doing it in a respectful way that we're paying honor to our veterans that are there. That's the point of this. You'll also want to make sure that you gather necessary donations, such as chairs for those that are unable to stand for a long time, a sound system if you anticipate a big crowd, refreshments if allowed by the cemetery, and waste receptacles so that we don't leave trash on site. Wreath delivery and distribution is important to keep things running smoothly. You'll need to coordinate the delivery with the driver, unload and count the wreaths to ensure there are no issues, and then collaborate with the cemetery staff for section coverage if needed, and manage wreath staging and distribution so that there isn't a free-for-all to grab wreaths. And again, some of these things, we've got people here that might have one veteran's grave and some that might have, several hundred or 1,000. So some of these things may not apply directly to you. These are just to give you ideas. If you've got one veteran's grave, obviously you don't need to stage your wreaths around the cemetery. Event logistics and cleanup is another task. You will need to handle any seating that's needed, make sure there's adequate parking and traffic control, and don't forget to involve your local law enforcement officers with helping with that traffic flow. And make sure that your volunteers know when to be there and where to go for smooth wreath day. And don't forget the cleanup because that's just as important. You'll need a plan for post-event cleanup and wreath day, wreath disposal, or recycling if you can, to ensure that the wreaths are cleaned up in a timely manner. So some things to consider are where your ceremony will be held. Can everyone in attendance see and hear clearly? Will you need to borrow a sound system so that everyone can hear? If you're doing this out in the open in a large cemetery and you anticipate a big crowd, everyone may not be able to hear you as you're speaking unless you can really throw your voice out there. So you'll want to make sure that if you are going to need a sound system, you can reach out to some local companies to see if they're willing to donate that. Same thing with seating. You may not need seating for your location, but if you are able to place some chairs, it's nice to have a few available for those who may not be able to stand for a long time. If you're choosing a speaker for your ceremony, also make sure that you choose a non-controversial speaker because you don't want to take away from the day's events. The ceremony script, it's also available for download on the volunteer resource page. But remember, this is a guideline and we encourage you to make it your own. If you've been doing this for a while, you know this is the ceremony script that we've had since the beginning of time almost, other than just a few changes here and there. And again, the reason for that is it's just a guideline. We want you guys to take this and make it fit for your community, add things specifically about your cemetery and your veterans that are there. Some of the things that you can consider for your ceremony are contacting the USO or Red Cross to see if they will provide a trailer for water and first aid. Check with local companies like Home Depot or Lowe's and see if they can donate some of those items that might be needed, like chairs, gloves, or safety vests to help with parking. You can check with local print companies who might be willing to donate the cost of printing programs, maps of the cemetery, and proper wreath placement instructions. For some of those cemeteries that aren't our national ones that aren't all veterans buried there, you guys have your graves marked ahead of time. It might be helpful to be able to print that information out on a program to pass out so people know what they're looking for and they're not just placing the wreaths on all the graves, because that can get a little confusing for people who aren't familiar. You also can ask a local florist shop or a funeral home if they will let you borrow 8 stands for the ceremonial wreaths. Another option is to consider asking a local woodworker or youth organization to make the wreath stands for you to use year after year. Just make sure that you have somewhere that you can store them. And if that is an option that you are interested in having those made so you have them permanently, you can look on our Facebook page, which we will share at the end of the slide here. If you are not already on there, we have lots of location coordinators who have shared how some of the wreath stands that they have made out of wood. Some of them are very impressive. And the way that they have these made. And again, just make sure you have storage for those. But you can also, like I said, just get your local funeral home or local florist shop and just see if you can borrow those 8 stands so that you don't have to store those throughout the year. You also want to make sure that you have volunteers ready to greet local media, line up photographers or videographers who are willing to donate their services for the event. Keep in mind that you should get approval 45 days prior to the event if you're going to do drone photography, videography at a national cemetery. I don't think we have many national cemetery people on here, but we're going to keep that on there just in case. You can also submit requests for bugler via Bugles Across America, which I think we have that linked somewhere in our stuff. And that's a great resource if you to add a little extra to your ceremonies. And don't forget to show your love for your local companies, groups, or individuals, people who are there helping you make this happen. Include them in your wreath day if possible by just saying thank you. If you have a program, maybe consider have a list of sponsors on the back of the program so that people know that they went above and beyond to help you. So choosing to allow grave specific requests is a big responsibility, and that's why we do leave it optional for location coordinators. So you have to make sure that you are taking time to plan out how you're going to handle them in advance. Marking graves that will receive grave specific wreaths is a great way to reduce confusion on the day of. You can request donations of surveyor or American flags from local hardware stores to mark the graves and notify others to leave those for the families that are placing the grave specifics themselves. We've also seen some people who had little stakes made that they placed there that said, my loved one is coming to place my wreath. So that way people who are there attending the ceremony know that someone is wanting to place that wreath on that specific loved one's grave, and that way they don't do it or place it there. And we also tell people if you do go to a grave and that you wanted to place a specific wreath on and or there's already a wreath there, just encourage them to go ahead and they can switch wreaths if they want, or they can just take their wreath and place it somewhere else and know that someone else also paid that tribute to their loved one. You want to also organize your list. So after the regional cutoff date, download and sort your grade specific list by those that will be placed by their loved ones or by those that wanted a volunteer to place for them. And this allows you to be able to sort those out on wreath day so you can have the people who are wanting to place them themselves come pick those up versus the one that you will be placing. You can choose to either place those afterwards or during the event, depending on what you have for volunteers. Family instructions. So this is a very emotional day for people who are placing the wreaths on their loved ones' graves. So make sure that you have a plan for when and where those families should pick up their wreaths and communicate the instructions via the dashboard messaging, social media, however, wherever you are, sharing that information with the people, make sure that you are including specific instructions for them to be there because what we don't want is for someone who is coming, they're wanting to place the wreath on their loved one's graves, and then maybe they get there and there's a lot of people and they don't know where to go, and then they end up not being able to place that wreath because by the time they found someone, all the wreaths have been placed, or it just stuff happens. So the more that we can communicate and provide clear instructions of where they need to be, the smoother things are going to go. Some other considerations is volunteer assistance. So ask sponsorship groups to help with the wreaths placed by volunteers, assign sections, and ensure clear instructions are provided. I know one location that they actually had involved some of their local, I think it was Silver Air Patrol, by having them escort every family that wanted to place a wreath on their loved one's grave. They escorted them to that grave so they could place that grave specific um, wreath. And that was a great learning opportunity for those cadets as well, because for them to be able to see not only like they'd be able to see what the impact that those grave specific wreaths and why we're doing what we're doing. We're here, we're placing the wreaths on the veterans' graves, but seeing the impact that it had on the family who was able to honor their loved one with that wreath. So that's just some things that you can, get your local groups and community involved. Extra wreaths. I always recommend keep some extra wreaths stored to the side to handle any issues or misplacements, and check the graves after the event to make sure that any that are on your grave specific list were not missed. Sometimes well-meaning volunteers, if you aren't fully covered, they might say, oh, I wanted a wreath over here. There's one here. I'm going to go move it. So it's always a good idea to walk those grave specific requests afterwards, just to make sure that none got moved. Or again, I know a lot of people place their grave specific wreaths after the ceremony. So that way, if the wreaths got placed during the ceremony, great, they'll put it on another veteran's grave. And if it wasn't, then they've got those wreaths set aside. And then any extra that you may have that were already placed on the grave specifics, you can just place them on other veterans' graves. And if you are able, I encourage you to take pictures to send to the families for those that you are placing for them. And not everyone's going to be able to do that. Again, depends on your size. But if you're a smaller, location, if you have a big enough support team that you can do this, it definitely makes an impact if you're able to send someone who may not have been able to attend themselves. Maybe they live out of state. Maybe they're just not physically able to attend that. And you send them a picture of a wreath on their loved one's grave. That's going to mean a lot to them. And they're probably going to sponsor the wreath again next year as well. So let's talk about wreath delivery logistics. So your free wreath deliveries depend on donated trucking, and delivery can happen anytime in the 2 weeks leading up to wreath day. So you need to make sure that you're ready to receive delivery with potentially short notice. If you've done this before, if you've done this for many years, you know that it's gotten a lot better over the last couple years with communication. But some truck drivers are more communicative than others. So some are, contacting you like weeks out and kind of setting a timeline, and some are calling you like, hey, I'm going to be in your town tomorrow with your wreaths. So you definitely want to make sure that you have your phone handy. Make sure you don't have it, set to block calls that you don't recognize. I personally have done that myself. I'm like, oh, the driver never called me. They just showed up at my house and were delivering wreaths in the middle of the day. Well, he did call me. I just had it blocked, and so that's why I didn't get it. So make sure during that 2 week time frame, you just want to make sure we're answering unknown calls. I know that's not the favorite thing to do, but make sure you're answering those calls. Have a team of people available that can help. So if the driver needs to deliver, maybe you're going to be at an appointment that time, or you're at work and you can't get off. If you have a team of people ready to go, that can kind of come step in if you're not able to, that's going to make life much less chaotic if you do get short notice. If your wreaths are being shipped via UPS or FedEx, and that's for those who typically, if we're under like 75 wreaths, that's more than likely going to come UPS or FedEx, unless we happen to have another location that's getting wreaths on a truck that's right near you, and then we might be able to get them all on there. If they come FedEx or UPS, though, you're going to get a tracking number. And it's just like any other package that you get from FedEx or UPS. They're not going to call ahead and schedule that delivery. They're going to show up at your door. It does not require a signature. And so they'll just leave it on your porch or wherever. So make sure that the address that you have on file is something that is safe for storing those wreaths and those wreaths being left at. And you will be we're sending out our emails today and tomorrow for all of our locations, confirming all their information. So if you're like, wait a minute, this might not be, I'm only got 25 wreaths, so my wreaths are probably going to come FedEx or UPS and I'm not going to be home, I don't want them just left there. It's a perfect time to say, I'm going to need to update that small pack address so that my wreaths don't get taken from, my porch. So safe storage, make sure you've got a safe place to store them. If you do need a place and you don't have a place, I store mine in my garage. I store them beside my house, depending on where you live. I live in North Carolina. It's still pretty warm in December sometimes. I just open the top of the box and they sit right beside my garage and they're perfect still come wreath day. But you can also consider National Guard units, fire stations, VFW posts, and offsite warehouses will store them as well. Um, Counting and confirmation. So count all of your boxes at delivery. Compare it with the bill of lading if you're getting mail on truck, or compare that with the email that your regional liaison team will send you when the wreaths actually ship. And if they are off, you want to make sure you let us know. You're going to use your clicker counter that you also got in your thank you kits if you still got them for accuracy. If you've got 5 boxes, you probably don't need those. But for those of you who are going to have multiple boxes or unloading a truck, it can quickly get mixed up when if you have multiple people unloading boxes and you lose count. So use those clickers where you can to make sure that you're getting the accurate number of boxes, because we don't want to take too many and leave the next location short. And we don't want to not take enough. And then once you go to place your wreath on wreath day, you realize that you don't have enough wreaths that you need for your location. And make sure you submit your delivery confirmation form that will be sent to you, and we will remind you of that many times. You will submit that after delivery, so again we can see if there's any issues. But if you are short or if there is an issue, always make sure you reach out to your liaisons as quickly as you can so that we have time to send you any missing wreaths. And if you are short, first thing to do is don't panic, okay? Because unless it's Friday, usually we can still figure something out and make it work. Now, if it's midnight on Friday before wreath day, you could sweat a little bit, but we're still going to make it right. We're going to figure it out and it's going to be okay. But just make sure you contact your liaison so we can get that taken care of for you. All right. You do have, for the boxes on the trucks, you've got, each box contains 12 wreaths. They're 40 pounds a box roughly, and there are 18 boxes per pallet, which is like 216 per pallet. The pallets are broken down. So if you're getting a partial on a truck and they're on a pallet, they're going to break those off of the pallet for you. Some of our larger locations, the trucks may deliver palletized boxes, and they may say, hey, we have a forklift, we want to take those off. That's fine. Just communicate with the driver when they call you and kind of see what they have and what they can do, and you can kind of make changes last minute from there. For most of us on this call, if you've got only 100 or so wreaths, you're going to probably just be offloading those right off of the box onto a pickup truck or a trailer or whatever and move those around as needed. And so last year we did get some new boxes. We were really excited about those because they're round. I don't know about y'all, but my wreaths looked fabulous. It kept them, they didn't get that square where you have to wait for them to kind of fluff back out. And some people were worried about the boxes being heavier. But we had a lot of people who actually said that it was easier to carry because there's handle on 2 sides. You can turn it long ways or you can just hold it upright, kind of tag team if you need to with those. So here's just some information on some of the different sizes. And again, we're going to send you these slides so you don't have to, feel like you have to write all this information down, because we're going to send it to you. We also have it on pretty much all of our volunteer resource stuff that we have. We tell you the different box sizes. So this will be coming to you. I'm not going to read through all of it because that's a lot of stuff on there. All right, so let's talk a little bit about traffic control and parking. So make sure you have a team of people that can manage your traffic control and parking logistics if needed. If you've got, even some of the smallest cemeteries, mine specifically, we don't have any parking on site. So we're parking on the side of the road or the Dollar General across the road or the veterinary hospital that's beside of us. So you want to make sure that you've got adequate parking, put signs out so people know where to park, because you don't want people parking on the side of the road where it may be unsafe. Again, make sure you're communicating that ahead of time. too, so that they know what to expect when they get there. This is a great opportunity to reach out to your local law enforcement officers and see what they can do to assist. It gives them an opportunity to be involved um, and support their local, Wreaths Across America ceremony. And helps you guys out as well by helping control that traffic so we don't have any issues. It also works too if you for wreath delivery. If you need to block off traffic to get a truck backed into the cemetery, we do have that. If you have to stop traffic on those roads, consider contacting those local law enforcement officers. And we do have, and I don't know if she's on because I can't see my people right now, but we do have a law enforcement liaison, who I'm probably messed it up, Janine Roberts, who's been doing this for a long time. And she is a great resource if you're like, hey, how do I get my, what do I need? How do I reach out to? If you need help, reach out to your liaisons and we can put you in touch with her and she can help assist you guys with that. So also use traffic directors, volunteers that can direct traffic in and around the parking areas with reflective vests for safety. We don't want anybody getting run over. Make sure that, again, that parking plan, that if you need additional space, some people may have to park offsite and bus people over. Use nearby locations like schools or businesses if necessary. If you do have to bus people, contact your local schools and see if they have bus drivers who will be willing to donate their time and that bus to be able to bring people in. Um, and then just make sure you also have parking that is close to the ceremony location if you do have to use shuttles, or have golf carts for visitors with disabilities or those who may not be able to walk long distances. And then make sure you are just communicating those plans with people. So inform your visitors about parking and event details through your Wreaths Across America location page. Use dashboard messages, social media, and your local media to make sure you're sharing this stuff. Because again, the more that you are communicating with the people who are going to be attending, the smoother it's going to go for everybody because no one's going to be frustrated by showing up and not knowing where to go. They're going to know what to expect, what time to arrive. If you have your wreaths, if you place, some people place their wreaths and then they have a ceremony, you want to make sure that that is indicated on your Wreaths Across America location page. So just making sure that you're communicating your plans with the local people. We're going to talk a little bit about wreath staging and distribution. And again, some of this, if you've got 10 veterans in your cemetery, some of this is not going to apply to you, but we do have some people on here who have a couple hundred, couple thousand veterans graves. So we're going to go through it. So you want to make sure you have assign a dedicated team to manage wreath staging and distribution logistics. For cemetery staff, make sure you're coordinating with them, schedule a meeting with the cemetery staff to plan wreath placement, and talk about rotating sections yearly if you don't have if you're not going to be able to cover all the graves there. So that way we're not just covering the same graves every year, but you can actually rotate it around so that after a few years, every grave has received a wreath. Make sure you walk through the sections to determine wreaths needs and stage them with clearly posted proper wreath placement instructions. And so that's, if you've got bigger sections, you can take the boxes and stack them in those sections, have someone that is there, a volunteer that is there that can distribute those. And then have signs there as well about the proper placement so everyone kind of knows what to expect. And again, don't forget to set aside those grade specifics and communicate with the sponsors about picking those up. And always keep a little bit of a buffer because you just never know what's going to happen. Someone's going to call up, say, I ordered a wreath and it wasn't there. And if you have a few on standby, you're able to say, hey, don't worry, I got you. We can go, we can place this one. And then make sure that when passing out the wreath, so we always recommend that if you are, once you finish your ceremony, invite those that have loved ones who are interred there to step forward and get their wreath first. And that's going to give everyone an opportunity who wants to place a wreath on a specific grave, even though maybe they didn't do a grave specific wreath sponsorship, they can still come forward, get that wreath, and go and take it and place it on their loved ones' graves. Start off with about 1 to 2 wreaths per family. so that you, depending on what you have for wreaths, kind of do some quick math there, look at what you have for a crowd. Obviously, if you have 200 wreaths and you've only got about 20 people there placing wreaths, probably don't have to worry about it too much. But if you've got 75 people and you've only got 80 wreaths, you probably want to start by just passing out one wreath per person, so that everyone has an opportunity to place those wreaths there. And again, if possible, involve your local youth organizations to help with locating those graves and doing some research with the cemetery maps. If you need help marking your veterans' graves, great opportunity to put the young people to work by going out and marking those graves for you. We do recommend that if you're going to mark the graves, don't do it too early in the year, as the markers may get removed, and then you have to go out and mark them again. So I would recommend Veterans Day is a perfect time to do that, especially if you're going to be marking them with American flags. Or if you coordinate with your local American Legion, VFWs, a lot of them actually go out and mark the veterans' graves with American flags on Veterans Day as well. So it might already be done. All right, let's talk about wreath cleanup. So, assigning volunteers to manage box and wreath disposals is important. Contact your local waste companies early in the year to request in-kind donations for dump trucks, dumpsters, and recycling bins. Ensure that they provide assistance with disposal once they're filled. So you don't want a bunch of filled dumpsters there and they haven't come and picked them up. But a lot of the local waste management companies are willing to bring those dumpsters in on Wreath Day, or not on Wreath Day, sorry about that, on cleanup day, so that you can just fill those dumpsters and then haul them off. You want to make sure you're setting a wreath cleanup date with your cemetery staff. Different cemeteries are going to have different rules as far as cleaning up. If it's a national cemetery, third Saturday of January is when they want them all picked up. Sorry, Logan's calling me because he didn't read. We're going to blast Logan, our customer service manager, on this call because he's calling me because he didn't see I was on a call. So for wreath cleanup day, again, make sure you check with your staff. If National Cemetery, third Saturday of January, you're going to want those picked up. If you are in the South where it is hot, you might not even get that long. It may be, a week or two after the first of the year or earlier before they get brown. That is we don't want dead wreaths on veterans' graves. That is not a good look that anyone wants. So make sure you're getting those picked up in a timely manner before they start to turn brown. Some people up north, I'd leave them out there till the spring because they have to wait for the snow to melt. So just talk to your cemetery because they're going to know what's going to work best for them. And then make sure that you share those details on your page, on your Wreaths Across America page, if you have a Facebook page, on social media, make sure you're sharing that. And then if you have a large number of wreaths, you can use equipment like backhoes to compress the wreaths to allow for more efficient disposal, and encourage volunteers to wear gloves. They can use broomsticks or ropes to transport those wreaths more easily for the cleanup, because you're going to have way more people show up to help place the wreaths than to come out to clean them up. So usually while we're, handing out one or two to place them, you're usually, for cleanup, people are grabbing, multiple ones at a time. So a big broom, you can just stuff the wreath on there and drag it around, or a rope held on either hand is a great way to kind of get a bunch done at one time. And again, put those kids to work. Okay, bring them out on a Saturday and make sure that they're out there helping you guys. So a couple different things for just recycling is you can actually recycle the metal rings. And I know we have lots of locations that will actually disassemble the wreaths, and they will, I'm trying to think of what they say. They're like pliers. They kind of pull it apart, take the balsam off, and then they just recycle those metal rings. And then you can use a chipper for greens to create mulch. And you can donate the bows to local retirement homes or schools that they can use for craft. And this is just a way that you can put those wreaths to continue to go to work even after they've done their job on that grave. Some more alternative uses are local fisheries and farmers. Just check to see if they can be used for fish habitats. We have several locations in West Virginia that are able to do that. And then you can also, people feed them to the goats. They love the wreaths. We do have a document that's available that just tells you a little bit about some of the, the pesticides might be used depending on the year. That's something you always want to make sure you are sharing with any farmer you're talking to. Some may say, nope, we don't want to risk it, but we do have many people who have fed their wreaths to their goats for years and years and years, and we've had no issues so far with anyone's getting sick. My bunnies and my chickens love mine. They like to even just play in it, even if they're not eating it. So always ways that you can use, put those wreaths to work. You can also check with your American Legion to see if they can perform a flag retirement ceremony with the wreaths where they burn the wreaths and then you can take those metal wreaths, the metal rings, and recycle them afterwards. All right, I know I'm talking a lot, so we just got a few more slides to go and then we will open it up for everybody. All right, so number one tip for success is build a strong team. So assign a lead volunteer who reports back to you for planning processes. Define the task and roles. Use Wreath Day Logistics template from the planning section of the volunteer resource page to define who does what. Now that template on that page is fully customizable because again, we're covering locations. We've got over 4,600 locations nationwide participating so far this year. So that's a wide range of locations and sizes so that it's fully customizable. Take what you need and delete what you don't to make it work for what you need. It's just the way to organize your thoughts of some of the tasks that you may need them for. That volunteer resource page, you're going to have all access to all Reads Across America approved planning and marketing materials, press release templates, order forms, volunteer tutorials, and so much more on that page. So if you haven't checked it out, make sure you go there today. Make sure you're checking out all the stuff that we have for you guys that you can use. You also should have received customized forms from your regional liaisons. If you haven't, make sure you're reaching out to them. That would include sponsorship forms with your QR code on there, as well as a Wreath Day poster that has your QR code and a little bit about your ceremony. That is a great thing to share locally with your community. Take it, pass it out to businesses. Say, hey, can you post this in your window, on your door, or wherever, at local churches, schools. It just tells people where they can go to show up on Wreath Day, what time they can be there so that people are coming to your ceremony, and also has your QR code so that they can help support the cause by sponsoring a wreath for a veteran. And that QR code on that poster will go directly to your group or location page, depending on which one you're using. So communication, we've said it a few times. Clear communication is key. Make sure you are using that dashboard tutorial. And again, that's on that volunteer resource page to learn how to send messages and ensure strong community support. We're not going to go into the details of all the messaging because there's a lot, but take a look at that, check it out. Lots to do there. If you need help, reach out to your liaisons. They're going to be happy to help you. You can send messages through the dashboard to sponsorship groups, sponsors, and volunteers, and you can break those out. So depending on what you want to send to each one. You can also mail or email invitations to elected officials to see if they're interested in attending and get that support. And some key details to make sure you're communicating is share your current wreath count and how many are still needed. This is a great way to bring a call to action to people like, hey, we still need 20 wreaths to go to make sure that all the veterans in our cemetery are covered. And that's a great way for people to just say, hey, oh, let's step in. We can do this. 20 wreaths, we can do that. Also include your duty instructions, so timeline map, and make sure you're saying thank you to any of the volunteers that you are sending out assignments to. Grade specific placements. You want to make sure you're communicating when and where to pick up those wreaths for loved ones. And that can be done again in our dashboard through the messaging, through the grade specific request. You can send the information right from there to let them know exactly specifically where they need to go to pick up the wreath, if they're placing it themselves, or if they are having you place it for them. So that can be done in the grade specific report, or it can be done in bulk under the messaging module of the dashboard. And you can choose if you want it to go to those who are placing themselves or those you are placing for them. And you also want to make sure that you are providing a date and time for the wreath cleanup. So that have that ready by wreath day. If you already have that planned, then you can share that so people know when to come back, because people are looking for when to go place the wreath if they're familiar with wreaths across America and they're like, oh, I want to go place the wreaths. So they're looking for that date to be there. Most of them don't think about the cleanup and they don't think about that date needed for that. So make sure you're sharing that on wreath day to your people so they know, hey, we need you to come back and help clean this up too. So that's important to make sure that you are sharing. And make sure you are clearly communicating parking and arrival details. Where your address for the cemetery on your pages, or you can customize this information. Some of the cemeteries are kind of out in the middle of nowhere. They don't have an address, so you might need to say, like, you're going to take a left by the corner shop and then go down 2 roads. You're going to see a dirt road past the big tree. We have some like that. Make sure, however it is that you need to let your community know, that you are sharing that clearly in details via messaging or on your page where you're sharing that information. And start time. So we kind of talked about it earlier. Wreath placement, some people place the wreath and then they have a ceremony. Make sure you are sharing that, sharing what time the ceremony starts, what time the wreath placement starts, whether that it's immediately following the ceremony, and what time people should be there to pick up their very specific wreaths as well. And just highlight any featured speakers, any special other things that are going on. If there's going to be refreshments there, the more you can let people know what to expect when they get there, the less confusion there's going to be on wreath day. All right, so this right here on the left hand corner is your wreathometer. So your wreathometer shows you how many wreaths you have sponsored to date. We ship wreaths based on your veterans grave count, which is your max to ship in the system that you provide us. And we encourage you to, if you are already fully covered, go ahead and donate some extra sponsorships to other locations in need in your community, in your state. There's lots of people out there trying to ensure that they cover all of their veterans' graves. So we know we've been sending out emails to people who have already fully covered their cemeteries this year, and that is wonderful. If you have extras, please make sure you're kind of considering sharing those with other people. You still get credit. What happens is it actually shows up on their page and says, this location gifted this number of wreaths to this other location. So it's a great way to show community support, especially for other locations within your state. And you can also, so the sponsorship goal on this wreathometer here, this shows you the goal of wreaths you want. So little reminder that we do not ship the wreaths based off of the sponsorship goal. We ship the wreaths based off of your veterans grave count. I lost my train of thought there earlier, so I had to circle back around to it. Sorry. So your veterans grave count that you have in the system, that's what we're going to ship you up to. If you go over that, then it's going to go either to another location or roll over to next year, depending on what you have shared with your liaison at the time of sign up. This wreathometer is powered by your sponsorship goal. That can increase. So if you're already covered, but you're like, hey, we still want to get some more sponsorships in, but people aren't sponsoring because they said we're already covered, you can increase that sponsorship goal to be over. It does not affect the number of wreaths that will be shipped at all. And that can actually help you guys get more sponsorships throughout the year. Also, it's a great way if you have a larger cemetery and you just don't have a lot of community support. Maybe you're not going to be fully covered, and you're like, we're never going to get 2,000, wreaths. You can lower that goal. It doesn't have to be set to your veterans grave count. It can be set lower so that it seems more attainable. Sometimes, like when you're working with your groups, they're looking at this high number. We're never going to get there. What are we going to do? Lower it down so it's something that they feel encouraged. It feels like it's something that they can actually reach, and it's going to be encourage them more to be involved, and it seems like an attainable goal. It also helps your community say, like, oh, we can do this. We can close that gap. So that's just something to consider there as well. So for those of you, if you have not spent much time in your dashboard, I am going to encourage you to go there and check it out. So your page, your location page, can be customized. However, not however, it's it can very much be customized to how you would like it. You can update this picture here that you see behind this group page. That banner is customizable. So I encourage you to share a picture of your cemetery. So that way when people come to your page to sponsor a wreath, they're like, oh, I know that cemetery. You can do that for your group page as well. If you have a group, make it show your local cemeteries that you're supporting or your local groups, because it's going to help people connect with you more when they see things that they know, the area that they know. You can also, this is all this text on here, you can edit that. And again, this is where you're going to be communicating. When we talk about communicating your wreath day plans, this is kind of where you'll do that. So making sure that your wreath ceremony time, we have a lot of stuff that's already built in here. It's going to show the times on there, but you can go in and you can customize that to be more specific to your wreath day plans, where they need to be, where they want to go, what time to be there, what speakers you are. This is a great place where you can highlight some of those people who have been very involved in your ceremony, who are going to be speaking. You have access to edit all of this. The only thing we do ask you to is you're going to have the wild cards. So it's anything that's inside of the text bracket, which is usually the date. If you take that out, you have to remember to go the next year and retype that. If it's in those brackets, that will update automatically. So all the dates always in the brackets. So that way next year when it rolls over, it's going to automatically update that date for you, and you don't have to remember to go in and type that new date in. All right, so sharing on social media, some do's and don'ts. Make sure you aren't posting anything political, anything that's going to cause controversy. Do share stories about your heroes and the community celebrations. If you've got fundraising groups out there doing events for your location, it's a great place to highlight them and show off what they're doing. Do share thank you messages to veterans of your community, local businesses that are supporting you. Share your wreathometer to help track your progress for fundraising, and share your direct link to your Wreaths Across America page, whether that's your location page or sponsorship group page. And you can hold fundraisers on Facebook for birthdays or events. Those funds do come back to your location and your group. You just have to make sure that you are submitting the Facebook notification form to ensure you get credit for those wreaths sponsored during the time. And there are specific instructions for that on our volunteer resource page. You can also share Wreaths Across America graphics using the monthly messaging guide with the Wreaths Across America branded graphics, also found on our volunteer resource page under the marketing to materials for social media. So engaging with local media, make sure you're building relationships with your media outlets throughout the year. And keeping involved. If you have fundraisers, this is not just a one-time a year thing that you have to reach out to them on. You can use this, throughout the year. If you have the MEE happen to be there, have a big fundraiser, a big event, make sure you're sharing that with them. Reach out to them. The worst thing they can do is say no. You send them the story, you send them what they want to share. They're not always going to publish it, but that's okay. As long as you keep asking, eventually they will, maybe, or they'll get tired of you asking and say no. But go ahead and reach out and a lot of times they want to share that stuff. We do have templates that you can use to reach out to your local media on that volunteer resource page. And on here, you can see some of the different contacts that we have that you can reach out to. Again, these slides are going to be shared with you guys, so you don't have to feel like you have to write everything down. And then this is just a page that's got some ways that you can stay connected with us. So that Facebook page we talked about earlier, you can see that on here under social media. We do have a group that is specifically for Wreaths Across America sponsorship groups, and one that is for location. So that location page, that is a great resource. If you are on Facebook, but you are not on that group page, I'm going to encourage you to go on and request to join today, because there, as we go into get closer to Wreath Day, that is going to be a great place for you to get ideas, suggestions. And if you're a fundraising group, do the same for the fundraising page, because we still, all of our fundraising ideas for our fundraising idea guide, a lot of that comes from that page because people share stuff and we're like, oh, that's great. Can you like tell us more so that we can share this? They show you how they set up their fundraising tables and stuff like that. So make sure you join that and take advantage of that. So now I have talked a whole lot. So we're going to open it up for anybody that has any questions, and we'll go from there. You can raise your hand or you can just unmute and start speaking out if you want. Go ahead, Stacy.
Can you hear me?
I can.
You know, I struggle with these. I never can get one thing doesn't work inevitably. But anyway, I have two things real quick. Another thing for getting sponsorships, if you have a company that you are aware of that uses the Benevity app for community service, it is a little bit tricky to get your location set up to begin with, but work with Charmaine in the headquarters. She'll help you get your location set up. Our location has struggled to be where it's at this point in the year. Every year, this is our 6th year, and we're already over halfway simply because of payroll deduction donations. So that's been huge this year. So definitely use that. The other thing, I have a question. Can you set up a cemetery for to get the ceremonial wreaths and grave specific only, or do you have to open it up for general sponsorship?
I mean, to get the grave specifics, it would have to be kind of open to sponsorships. Now, you could set it up for ceremonial only, and you could do a special arrangement if you're like, hey, this is the set number of wreaths that we're going to be getting to place.
Okay.
But I mean, I feel like we can always kind of figure something out and make it work. Just reach out to the Region 2 liaisons and they can take care of that for you.
Yeah, I'm trying to get interest in somebody to take the other 3 cemeteries that want to participate that I just can't handle by myself. So
yeah. Come on, Stacy, get a team of people and let's put them to work.
Listen. Yeah. Anyway, thank you. Everybody have a great day.
All right, thank you, Stacy. All right, Kathy, I see that you've got your hand raised. Oh, I can't hear you. You're muted.
Thought I did. Okay, there we go. I got help here. Thank you. I wanted to verify approximately what's the best timing on when you retire the wreaths. We typically we recycle the whole wreath and everything, including the foliage to give to goats, like you had mentioned, and stuff. So, like, is there any kind of particular date?
Where are you located?
Okay, we're in California.
Okay, so it really just
County.
depends on your weather. I mean, to most people, it's somewhere the first 3 weeks of January. That is when most people are picking those up.
Okay, because you did say for the national ones, that's the 3rd week in January. So I took notes of that.
And that's their like drop dead day. They're like, they need to be up by this week.
Okay, understand. Okay. And then I was going to mention one thing that we do, because the past have not been able to cover all the graves in our cemetery. We do the day before on the Friday, we place a small flag on every grave so that we're covering them all. And then the next day, if we don't have enough wreaths to place, at least we put a flag on every grave. So I think that's worked really well. And then we get volunteers the day before to do that. A lot of times it's students and all. That's just one comment. And then I wanted to know, will we know, I mean, how do we know what kind of boxes that will be delivered with the wreaths? You show pictures of different sizes. It just depends on the amount we're getting. Will depend
the
on
boxes are all the same. They're all the same. They're that round box that's on that
yeah, the picture.
Okay. Yeah, the round box, and they are just some of the pictures you may see and some of the slides are the square boxes that we used to have, but we don't have those anymore. They're just the round ones, so they're all going to be the same. I didn't even think about that. But,
that's okay.
It's just all that round one with 12 wreaths per box, so everyone will get
12.
those. And then we'll send information to you exactly how many boxes. You'll get an email saying like, hey, your wreaths are shipped or your wreaths are about to ship, depending on if they're coming from a cross dock. But
Okay,
you'll get an email from us with information, how many boxes and all that.
okay, and that's typically, like you said, was 12 wreaths per box of the
Yep,
box.
12
Is that
wreaths
correct?
per
Okay,
box. Mhm. And we
okay,
don't open the boxes. I mean, of course, when they're making 3 million wreaths, occasionally you're going to have a box that's someone counted wrong and it's got an extra wreath in it or a shorter wreath. But that's a very small number that we've seen that happen to you. For the most part, you've got 12 wreaths per box. And lost my train of thought where I was going with that. But yes, 12 wreaths per box.
okay. And then I wanted to show, where do we get this? We used to be able to get this, I don't know if you could see it. Well, the 10 parts of the wreath, the 10 bouquets,
Mhm.
the flyer, because that's a really good advertisement for
Yeah, what's
the
the
wreaths that
wreath?
we use.
I think that's on the resource page.
I think it's life cycle of a wreath or something like that. It's a weird name.
Oh, it is called something different, because I haven't
Uh,
found it. Well, we have it from the past.
It's the Veterans Wreath Coloring page. It's on under
yeah.
the marketing materials for events.
Oh, okay, look under marketing material. Okay,
I
okay.
think that one's different. The one that she has is not the
Oh, is
coloring
it?
one.
Oh,
There's
Yeah,
a
it's a
couple
different
options.
one.
Kind of, we're gonna get the Regional 4 liaison to send that to you via email because apparently we're all confused.
Oh, really?
I know
Okay, so
exactly I know which one you're talking about,
Okay.
which page you have. So we'll get that
Okay.
sent over to you.
Oh, good, good. Thank you. I really appreciate that. And
You're
one
welcome.
last,
Janelle
sorry.
posted it in the chat. It's posted
Oh,
in the chat.
thank you, Janelle. So that's in the chat for you too.
You're welcome.
Okay, and one last thing, I encourage people, if they can, to come to Maine. I'm all the way from California, but 2 years ago, my husband and I went to Maine. We met the Worcester family. We went to the property, saw the museums, did dog tags and everything. It's amazing. If anyone has a chance to go there, it's incredible and well worth it, definitely. And they have cabins you
Absolutely.
could stay at too, which is really awesome. We're staying there. We're coming next month, actually. So I hope
Oh,
to
awesome.
maybe meet some of you and of course meet Morrill and Karen and do the flagpole on Tuesday. So
Yep,
I love the
absolutely. We
radio.
look forward to having you.
Thank you so much, Julie.
Thank you.
Thanks for all you
You're
do.
all the plugs. Thank
Really.
you. All right,
Thank you.
Natasha, you got your hand raised if you want to go ahead.
Yes, I just had a quick question. You said something about the customized forms and the posters and the QR codes. How do we get those or fill out a form to actually get those?
So you should have
And
received them in your welcome email that you got from your regional liaisons. It would have come with links for you to be able to download those. If you don't see that, just shoot them an email. Let me actually go on over to the next slide here. And you can see here is your contact information for your regional liaisons. Reach out to them and say, hey, can you resend me my forms? Because sometimes those emails go to spam and they can resend that for you so you have everything.
okay, cool. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right, Susan, you got your hand raised?
Yes, please. Because of our snow up here, we don't pick up our wreaths until March or April, and most of the time they're still frozen. Is there any suggestions on the recycling without having to take bows off or the foliage off?
So you could do, like I said, if we contact your American Legion, they can do a wreath retirement ceremony where they burn them. And then you can just pick up the rings after the fire's, gone down, and you can recycle those rings. That would be the
Bows
only
and
way I
all?
know that you could.
Yeah.
Because the bows and all that will kind of burn off. You'll have some like wire from the bows that you might have to break up. But if you ask them, they can help you do that.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, Julie, real quick, we've got Janine Roberts in chat, and she might be able to pop on for just a couple minutes to share some of the ways that people can get their local police involved.
Yeah, go ahead, Janine, if you're on, because I did not see you earlier, or I would have stopped to let you talk.
Oh, it's all good. You got some great information going out there to everybody. Hey, everybody. My name is Janine Roberts. I'm retired chief of police out of Westbrook, Maine. Been volunteering with Wreaths Across America for collectively about 19 years and the law enforcement liaison position since I retired in 2020. Thank you for your time and your information and attention this afternoon or morning, depending on where you are in the country. As the law enforcement liaison, how I might be able to help you is if you are having challenges with connecting with your local county or state police agencies, they're not getting back to you, or you can't find the right person, whether it's a small community or a bigger, larger community, you can reach out to me in the chat. I put my email address and cell phone number. And also you can also get it from your regional team liaisons or anybody. Also, if you have some ideas of connecting with the local agencies, I know that across the country we have challenges with staffing and having officers available depending on what else is going on in the community. But certainly many of our officers are veterans. And we would love to be involved. And thinking about your fire departments as well, your 911 dispatches is one area of first responders that many of us overlook, that they're truly the first responders because they're the one taking that phone call when you're in crisis. And if you have any like a request for an honor guard or a color guard, or looking for an escort, blocking intersections, talk about a traffic plan if you've got a couple of hundred or more guests coming in, and just really learning about your local area and what your resources are. I hope that you already have those relationships. So what I tend to do is make a connection with that agency, find out who the person is, and then connect you with them so that you can build that relationship locally. And I'm still here on the sidelines if I can help further.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Janine. And like she said, she put her stuff, her information in the chat, but also you can reach out to your liaisons and they can help you connect with her as well. She's a great resource for that local law enforcement support. All right, we've got Damon, you've got your hand raised.
Yes, I do, and thank you for listening to me. And if you've covered this, I apologize. I've been interrupted 4 times during this session, but our cemetery that we're using is small. We're going to have about 80 wreaths on there. But there are a lot of just flat markers for these graves. There are not vertical monuments. What's the best recommendation for standing those up so people know that they're there?
So if it's flathead gravestones, you can actually just place them flat on the ground. Some people do use stands, but that's if you've got 80 stands, you know, that's quite a bit to have to get and put out. My own local cemetery, they're all flat headstones as well. We just place them at the bottom of the headstone, and people can, when you drive by, you can see them, you know, not quite as much as if they're standing up, but we also leave our ceremonial wreaths out there so that when people drive by the cemetery, they see those ceremonial wreaths and they go, oh, what's that? And then they kind of look and they can see the other wreaths there.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. We've got Jim Benoit. I see you actually have your hand raised. I want to get you on there. Oh, and you're muted. Just hit that mute button.
I
Can you
did.
hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Oh, it says I'm muted. Okay, one fast question. I need to increase my wreath number. Do I just contact my region and let them know?
Yep, you just reach out to your regional liaison team and let them know, like, hey, I need to update my veterans grave count. This is what I've what it's given what it's going to be. They've also, like I said, we're actually sending out emails right now for confirming all of that information. So if you've already got that email, you can just reply to it and say, hey, yep, I need to update this. Or you can, you know, just give them a call.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, right, you're welcome. All right, Keith, you got your hand raised? Keith, are you there? All right, we're going to jump on over to Jack. You've got your hand raised, and then we'll come back to you, Keith, when you come back.
Yes, can you hear me?
I can.
I'm sorry if you covered this. I came in late. Can we get
That's
extra
okay.
T-shirts for the ceremony?
Like the ones that we sent in the thank you kits?
Yes, or the welcome kit.
Oh yeah, the one. So those are just kind of some extras that we had that we gave out, and I actually don't think we have that many more on hand, but we do have several available in our store that you can purchase, or you can work locally to see if you can maybe get a local t-shirt company that's willing to print some for you.
Okay. And I also have a question about abandoned cemeteries. would it be just as feasible for me to list myself as the contact person as?
So if you Sure. So if you have a cemetery like that that is not it's not managed by anybody, and we do know that those we have plenty of those around. There's no management. There's no one to contact to get permission. You don't have to list yourself. What you're going to do is just communicate that with your liaisons when you sign up. Say, hey, there's no one to manage it. This is an abandoned cemetery. And what we'll do is we'll just put in that there's no contact at the locations, that we were not bugging you to sign off on a cemetery form, since you're not actually don't actually work with the cemetery, but we can certainly still make that happen.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Julie?
Yep, go ahead.
Deborah Christian, can you see my
Oh,
hand?
hello. I can't. There's like 200 people on here. I was trying to scroll through. How are you, Miss Deborah? Go ahead.
I'm doing fine, and I just want to thank you for letting me come up to Maine this year. And like Kate said, everybody should take a trip. We did the STEM, we did the race, we stayed in the cabins, and we had an excellent time. And what was so outstanding, I wondered how that my little cemetery was chosen. And you made me realize that no cemetery is too small to be recognized. Since that day, we've had an interview with Encounters with God, and now our state cemetery will be being put together here next month. We'll be able to have 35,000 veterans laid to rest there. So I'm so proud I'm part of this in East Texas, and the reefs across America helped us to get a lot of recognition for our Black soldiers that had died for this country, all the way from the Civil War to World War I, World War II, Korean War, and so forth. So just proud to be a part of what we're doing. And I think I'll be doubling my reefs this year. Thank you for letting me come see you.
That's awesome. I'm glad you could join. I had the pleasure of getting to hang out with Miss Deborah at Stem to Stone. We drove around. We got to have all kinds of fun together. So like they all said, if you're ever up in Maine, make sure you let your liaisons know, because we can put you in contact with the people who are up there. A lot of us are remote. We're not located in Maine, but we do have people in Maine that would love to see you and show you around the museum. And so you can just kind of see where it all started from. All right, Susie, I see that you've got your hand raised. You're muted, Susie, and if you're talking, I can't hear you. All right, you're unmuted now, but I still don't hear you. Oh, there you go. Wait, try it again. Nope, I'm still not getting anything. So if anybody is trying to ask a question and we're not able to hear you, you can actually just pop that question right in chat, and we can do our best to make sure that we answer that for you. And we're going to jump on over to Roseanne. You got your hand raised?
Hi, yes. Can you explain to me how carryover works from one year to the other, to the next?
Sure. Sure. So if your location is fully covered for the year, we're going to send you an email saying like, hey, congratulations, you're covered. We'd like you to confirm that you want your wreath carried over to the next year, if that is what you have chosen to do. Those carryovers are going to be applied in somewhere between February and April. Really just depends on how quickly everything gets finalized with finance, because they have to make sure that there's no returns of checks and that every check is processed and all that good stuff. And then we go in and we're basically going to give you a credit of wreaths that will show up under your carryovers. When you go to log into your dashboard, you're going to see your carryover count, and that's where that is going to show. It is not tied to the group when it is sent as a carryover. So groups receive credit for those wreaths in the year that they are sponsored, whether that's payback or 3 for 2. So when they are moved over as a carryover, it is just to the location, and it is just as a single sponsorship wreath. And those will continue to, you can, opt to continue rolling those over every year as long as you're covered. Or if you're like, hey, I've got plenty for like this year or next year, I would like to give some to another location in need. You can certainly do that. Or you can say, hey, I want to give, 20 of these wreaths to this location, and I want to keep the rest to roll over to next year.
So does that roll over, is that indicated on the, what'd you call it, wreathometer?
Yep. So that is going to show as a part
Okay.
of your wreath. It doesn't show as a carryover. The only people that are going to see that it's a
She was
carryover
nice. I mean,
is
she didn't ruin me
you
at
when you're
all,
logged into your
that's what I
dashboard page.
kind of want to.
So you can see that on your dashboard, but on the public page, it is just going to show your total wreath count, so people don't see there's a carryover.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, Donna, you got your hand raised?
Hi, my name is Samantha. Donna is my boss. I'm actually wondering how I can become the main contact for this point. Would that be getting in touch with my regional liaison?
Yep, yeah, because they'll need to look at what's going on. If there needs to be a change, they'll just have to confirm that. But yeah, just reach out to them and they can get that taken care of for you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
All right, you're welcome. All right, if anybody else has their hand raised and I haven't seen you, you can just go ahead and unmute and kind of speak out, and we'll see if we can answer your questions for you. All right, Damon, I see you got your hand raised again.
Yeah, I got one more, and it just dawned on me. What is kind of the best practice, if you would, for these wreaths for cremains in a tribute wall where the remains are? How do you handle that?
So depends on
Columbarium.
the individual cemeteries and how they're set up. Most what they do is they place them at the bottom of the wall, like at the bottom of each row, and it might be, obviously they're smaller, so it might be like one wreath for like 2 rows or whatever works best, like kind of fits there. That's how most of them do that.
All right, thank you.
And if you do have columbarium in your cemetery, make sure you're taking to that account with that veterans grave count, because if you say we've got 500 veterans graves here, but 100 of those are in the columbarium, you won't need 100 wreaths for those. So you want to make sure that you're considering that when you give that veterans grave count to your liaisons. Make sure that they know that, because if we have a sponsor come in and say, we're going to cover the rest of these wreaths, we're going to send you up to that veterans grave count. So you might end up with wreaths that you're like, I don't know where to put these because I actually can't fit that many here, which is not always a bad problem to have, because usually you can find another veteran cemetery where maybe you can go place them. But just make sure you're communicating out with your liaisons, and that way we can get that taken care of now.
Good. Thank you for that advice, because I would not have lowered it for the columbarium account. Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. I'm glad you brought it up, because it gave me an opportunity to share that with everybody. All right, Susie, were you able to get your audio working? Nope. Well, we appreciate you being here. And you can always, so anyone who did have questions that maybe we didn't get to because we are a little over on time here.
She did put her question in the comments. It's is my total wreath count the count for our group and our location added together?
So for your location count, that's a great question. So your location wreathometer, that is going to include every wreath that is for your location from all groups that are sponsoring. So whether someone went directly to the location page and sponsored a wreath, or if you have 2 groups that are supporting, it's going to be combined. So your group wreathometer is going to be only ones that went from your group. Your location is going to be everything from wherever it came from, but it's going to your location. All right, thank you, Anna, for reading that out for me. All right, do we have any other questions? Am I missing anything?
My name's
I
Nancy.
see. Okay, go ahead.
And I'm from Utah, and I'm a little, I mean, we have a big cemetery, but we've never had a big Wreaths Across America order. And so we've lost our sponsoring. We had Blue Star Families in Utah, and we no longer have Blue Star Families in Utah.
Okay.
And so we've got it. Do you guys have like how to reach out to get somebody to sponsor your group? Do you have like a form or guidance as to how I can?
Sure, like how to get started. So we have lots of things you can use on that volunteer resource page. We've got a template, like a business letter template that you can send out to businesses or take in. I can tell you the best way to get companies to come forward is to just walk in the door and talk to somebody, because you're going to be able to sell your story a lot better if you're face-to-face contact with them. We also have flyers and brochures that you can use to take in and maybe drop off if you can't speak to someone. Say, hey, like, hey, take a look at this, consider, sponsoring. Make sure you're always dropping off your sponsorship form as well, or your QR code, so that they can quickly and easily go make a donation. But yes, we have lots of different resources that you can use on that page, and reach out to your regional liaisons too, because they can help provide support with different organizations that you can get involved, your American Legions, your VFWs. Make sure that people know that you are, doing your ceremony in there, because sometimes people just don't know. Like, you may think like, oh, I've told everybody, like everybody knows, we've shared this on, social media, whatever. There's always going to be people who don't know, who aren't aware, they've just missed it. So the more that you can get the word out about it, the more people are going to want to get involved. So I encourage you, go to the volunteer resource page and definitely reach out to your regional liaisons to see if they can give you a little bit more one-on-one support there.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right. I've got Hoffman. Got your hand raised?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
I was just going to listen to all the people wondering how they can identify the graves and different ways to do it. I'm with American Legion Post 402, and we took on 2 cemeteries, small family cemeteries. And the gentleman there helped us identify all the veterans' graves. And we made a stake to put the American flag in, and we changed the flag out every Memorial Day and every Veterans Day. So it's fairly fresh for December. So we have already marked during the whole year where the veterans are. I just throw that out as a hint. And we do have junior ROTC. We have 2 of them, which we asked them to present the colors and also to lay the servicemen's service wreaths. So
awesome.
We're using them and they're using us.
That's a great way to work together there. And like I said, the American Legion, VFWs, those types of organizations, they're going to be great resources for getting those, identifying those graves, because they do tend to mark them. And that's actually my cemetery. That's what they use as well. Otherwise, it'd be me out there with a notebook going down and just writing down the names, reading what's on the marker or whatever. But some don't always have those markers on there. So usually they've done a little bit of that research. Or it's also a great opportunity to put the young people to work and give them a history project to go in their cemetery and help identify the veterans' graves. We had one group that they actually made them do it as a history project, where they had to write a paper about the veteran that they found and what they learned about that veteran that was there.
I'm going to brag on the one junior OTC in Vernon. They came down and presented the colors and helped lay the flag wreaths out. And they went back and talked to their city council through their counselors at the school. They're doing about 5 or 6 cemeteries up there in Vernon right now.
That's awesome.
On the wreath day.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. All right, we've got Linda. You've got your hand raised. Are you there, Linda?
Oops, how do I raise my hand?
Is Linda talking? Because if so, we can hear you.
I think that might have been Deborah.
This is Deborah. And I don't know how to raise my hand. I'm sorry.
That's okay, because I can hear you, so you can go. There's just a lot of people on here, so it's hard for me to see everybody. So go ahead and speak up.
I am the person in the cemetery with the notebook and the pen. So I don't know where to go from there.
Oh my God.
I have been lost on this whole thing.
Sure. So you're just going out there and kind of like making a list based off of reading the headstones?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Broke it down into 4 sections. We only have 59 veterans.
Mhm.
So it
And
made
that,
it fairly easy, but I don't really know where to go from there.
I mean, I would go, so as far as like you've got the graves marked, you can also, like I said, reach out to the local like American Legion VFW and say, hey, I have this, like, would you be interested in taking this cemetery on to mark the veterans' graves? It might be something, that they are willing to do to make it easier going forward. And then when it's time for wreath day, if you've got the wreath sponsorships, if you have the graves marked, it's going to be easier for the people who are attending to be able to go out and place those wreaths. But even if you don't, just tell them how you did. Say, hey, this is what you're going to look for, or print off the list of names and just pass out copies of the paper that have the names on them. And these are the graves we're placing the wreaths on. I mean, different ways that you can do it.
We had planned on marking the graves so that
Mhm.
it was easier to identify for people helping us, for the volunteers. I'm not really an outgoing person that would go ask for sponsorship.
Oh my God.
Not the tech person that's gonna um, do it online also.
Mhm.
I need support.
So you need help with the sponsorships, getting the actual
Reach
sponsorships.
out to
So
Anna.
yeah, so what you can do is, you just, even if you're not comfortable going and like doing face-to-face communication or talking to them, there's stuff that you can mail out to them. We've got some brochures and stuff. You can mail a sponsorship form along with a little bit of information. Email is a great tool as well. To be able to just reach out to see if they're going to sponsor. If you reach out to Anna, that's who you said was your liaison, she can certainly help you with some ideas there. But if you can get a group on board, like if you can get a group like a youth group, someone from the school, they are going to be able to go on social media and share that and see about getting online donations, and go out in the community and get that. But it's going to definitely take a little bit to get those responsorships. You're either going to have to get like a donation from a business, which is certainly doable with 59 veterans graves there. Or get a group involved that's able to get those sponsorships for you. At a minimum, even if you don't get the sponsorship wreaths for the graves, we're going to send you your ceremonial wreaths, and you can still have a ceremony and you can still walk those graves and say their names.
Okay. All right. Thank you for the help.
You're welcome. All right. Do we have any other questions? Anyone on here who I haven't seen your hand raised? Just unmute and speak up. And we'll try to get your questions answered.
Julie, this is Jack. I have a comment along the line of Hoffman. I use a piece of white PVC to install the flags on each veteran's grave. And then I tell the people to put out the wreaths to just look for the white PVC. But I also wanted to thank you and the team for the way you distribute information. It's not like you send it all out at once. It goes out during the year, so you don't have to digest and remember all of it the whole year long. And this webinar fits what I'm doing much more so than the larger webinars.
Well, we're glad you're able to join, and it's a lot. It can be overwhelming when you come on board, but it seems like it's a lot to take in, but it's really not that complicated because it's just you're going out and we're just there to honor veterans. So like I said kind of earlier about ceremonies, it can be as elaborate or as simple as what fits your specific needs. Don't overthink it, don't stress it. Like, I'm not going to be able to do all this stuff that these other locations do. The first ceremony I did here locally, I didn't think anybody was even going to show up. And then I had more people that I had raised. So that was a little awkward. We didn't really have a ceremony plan. We had some kids there. We handed them the wreath. They stood there because we didn't have ceremonial stands. The kids stood there. They held the wreath. And, then we learned from there. But you always start somewhere. And I'm going to tell you too, anybody that's on here, if you're feeling, a little bit, frustrated, like you're not able to get those sponsorships or you're not doing enough. If it's your first year, the best thing that you can do is just still go for it. Don't think I don't have enough free, so I'm not going to do it, because every Veterans Wreath Matters. That's a veteran that's being honored. And again, even if you don't get one single wreath sponsorship, you are there. You are, maybe you've got people there with you, or maybe it's just you by yourself, but you are there. You are remembering those veterans. You are making sure that that veteran is not forgotten. You're walking that cemetery and you're saying their name. And that's what matters. So we thank you all for what you do, because this wouldn't be possible without you guys. And we're glad to guys have you on board to do this. And I know we didn't get time to answer everybody's questions today because I do have to pick up my kids from school at some point. So because they frown on that if I'm not there. But if we didn't get a question answered today, or if you have ideas or suggestions to share, go on that Facebook page, share your ideas, share your questions. Other people are going to step in and, tell you what they did that worked for them. Also, your regional liaisons are going to be a great resource for you to connect you with other people who maybe can help you or provide you with that one-on-one support to make sure you're getting what you need to get those, the word out to your community, getting your page updated and all that stuff.
What Facebook page are you speaking of too?
That is going to be right here on this slide. You can see that private Facebook group. There's the location coordinator one, and there is the sponsorship group one. And if one of my liaisons can drop those links really quick, thank you, Anna. In the chat, you guys can snag those. It's going to ask you for your location ID so that we know that you're actually a location coordinator. The location coordinator page is private to location coordinators only because we love and we appreciate all of our sponsorship groups, but we understand that you guys as location coordinators sometimes have specific questions about some of the groups that, you might need help and support from someone else who may have run into another issue. So we do keep that just for location coordinators. And then there is a separate one for sponsorship groups to share ideas for fundraising and stuff like that as well.
If I could make one comment.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say one comment quick. I encourage people to check out the Wreaths Across America radio. They have so much on that radio for information and all, but and I heard this morning that today is Apple Day and also Cheeseburger Day. So if anybody, so they even do trivia in the day. So it's a fun station to listen to 24/7 because I'm from California. So it's a 3-hour time zone difference. It has a lot of veterans information too, as well, in podcasts. So
yeah. And if anyone has ever, has a story that they want to share, they are always looking for people to interview and share their stories. It's very easy. I hate doing interviews and talking on there, but they always make me sound good. So it's super easy. So if you're like, hey, I have a volunteer here, I'd like to highlight and tell you about it's a really cool story or whatever, reach out to your liaisons that can put you in touch with that radio team because it's definitely an opportunity for you guys. So thank you all for joining us today. We appreciate all you do. It wouldn't be possible without you guys. And I'm so excited that so many people turned out. We will email those slides over for you guys, and the recording will be up by the end of the week. And I hope you all have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Julie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you, Julie.
Goodbye and God bless.
Bye-bye. God bless everyone.
Thank you.